Hey everyone, we want to welcome you today. My name is Patrick Elkins. I'm one of the co-founders at AV Coalition. My family and I live in Redding, California. We attend Bethel Church out here. We've loved being here on the West Coast, originally from the Midwest in Grand Rapids, Michigan. My background is a worship leader. And of course, today we are here with just an amazing crew of guys who have a passion to serve and equip the church. And our heart today, we all know we just came out of one of the busiest seasons for the church, the Easter weekend. And so we're going to talk to you today, just have a little conversation about what Easter looks like. What does it look like to Easter in the church? The ups, the downs, the highs, the lows, the spiritual and the practical elements. But before we get started, I just kind of want to go around and have us introduce ourselves. Why don't we start with Don? Would you just introduce yourself today?
Hey, yeah, I'm Don Smith. I'm the creative director at the church that I work at, Hope Community Church, as well as for an organization called EXPONENTIAL.
Ron COCHRAN, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yes, I work with NV5. I'm a full-time consultant for churches, specifically in the AVL realm. And I work exclusively here in town with a great ministry called Perimeter Church in Johns Creek, Georgia. And I just finished mixing the stream for the Easter services. That's typically what I do almost every week there. And so I love being plugged in with those guys, and a lot of great experiences that we can share today.
Hi, my name is Will Chapman, and I'm the online minister at Cottonwood Creek Church in Allen, Texas. And Allen is a suburb on the north side of Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, my name's Joey. I'm the AVL director at Life Mission Church in Greater Kansas City. We have a few campuses elsewhere here in the city. Our main campus is in the suburb of Olathe. We also have a pretty large online campus.
I'm kind of judging at you guys, looking for the bags under the eyes after coming out of a crazy weekend. You know, it's one of those things. I mean, obviously Easter can be one of the most pressure on weekends for the church. You know, I think it's really important for us to kind of dialogue. There are two sides of the coin. There's the spiritual side where the significance of the weekend celebrating the death and the resurrection of Christ. But then we get into the midst of all of these practical responsibilities. It could be events, it could be services, it could be preparation. What do you guys do just to ensure that the spiritual significance remains as the priority, whether it's for yourself personally or with your teams, walking into a weekend that actually has quite a heavy lift from a practical standpoint as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the first things that we do, honestly, in our end is I can't stress how much margin plays into it. And what I mean by that is not just time. And when it comes to Easter time, we're all in the whole way. Everybody knows that. That's part of the gig. Matter of fact, one of the weird things that happens in my family is my siblings, we all kind of have like one holiday that everybody comes to their area. And since I can't go anywhere at Easter, everybody comes to us. And so like, not only do I have church, but I have like 19 people staying at my house, which is insane. So there's no margin on the actual weekend. But what I mean by margin is we're further out, planning further out than we have been in a very long time. And what that does is that gives all of my teams opportunities to create the pieces that they would normally create just further back. So, I mean, some of the pieces that Easter was done probably 2 weeks before Easter. Because of that, people just get an opportunity to breathe and to actually be a part of it instead of feel like they're just going like their hair on fire until the very last minute.
Well, I like that approach, man. I like that approach of lowering the threshold for them and giving them a longer runway. It takes some of the pressure off. Any of you other guys have any personal or team, like how do you guys approach it?
Well, at Perimeter, and I've encountered this at other churches before as well, but, you know, the posture of the heart is something that we strive for all year long, right? And our mission statement from a technical standpoint is to be humble, prepared, and flexible. And so we talk about that year round. And so it's these high impact weekends that you really get to test that out, you know, and see how well you can do it. But one thing that we really try to stress is to posture your heart in such a way that, we're all humble and we all want to go in and appreciate the fact that we are hosting the celebration.
I think maybe we do things a little different here than a lot of other churches kind of in our sphere. Really, the only thing I would say little more intense from our normal services that we did is we synced up a video to one of our songs about, and it had some resurrection stuff in it, and it was really powerful. We also had a live dance on stage. We have a dance ministry that's getting started, and it was kind of their first time on a Sunday in front of everybody. But other than that, we really followed the same flow that we do on a regular week, and that's honestly, that's part of the culture here is we want to be us. We want to be who we are. We want to be who we are the rest of the year. So, and for us, it was instead of, worshiping the Lord according to maybe the leading of the Spirit week to week, we just really focused on Easter and what the day means. So honestly, looking back over the weekend, it didn't feel any more intense than normal, other than just some tech problems that we had show up at about 8:00 in the morning before service started. We had some panels on the LED wall go out. I had network issues at my satellite campuses. We had to run. We had to deal with. We had to put out some fires. It was a little intense, but I felt. Nobody really felt pressured on the team, other than in those moments where we had to kind of figure some stuff out. But beyond a normal week, it really didn't feel that different for us. But that's part of our culture here. That's something we built in, and that's something I really love about working here. The churches I've been at before hasn't been the case. Easter's a big production. There's a lot more, and it is very tiring. But we've just kind of shifted gears from that here.
Joe, you said something about it being normal. One of the things that I've been convicted about probably since my first couple of years in ministry, I think it was like my second year in ministry, I went to, it was either Christmas or Easter. I think it was Easter, at the church that I was at the time. And I was really young, so you just do what you're told, right? And they brought in a symphony orchestra to like this big thing, this wow kind of thing. And it was wow. I mean, there were some elements to it that were really wow. But the next week when people came back, they were like, hey, where'd all the stuff go? It felt very bait and switch like, right? So we're really similar in that context. I'd say if it's more for us, that we may take it up a notch, but our Sunday felt very much like a normal Sunday. It's just that because there were so many more people there were also so many more services. And so that was a little more where the taxation came.
It almost feels like there's these two like opposing trends where on the one side, it's trending upwards where we're adding more to the production, we're adding more events and services, we're adding more, and it's with excellence, right? The intent is with excellence, and it's intended for engagement, and it's intended for salvation, and that's fantastic. And for churches where that's kind of their focus, that's incredible. Then there's this other trend as well, where I think there have been a lot of churches who have actually ridden that other more is more curve, and they're looking now saying like actually less is more for us, and we actually feel like making room, kind of quieting things down, taking a little bit of breath, taking less of a focus on the production and the presentation, and more of a focus just on maybe being present with our families or whatever that looks like. I'm interested to hear from you as well, Will. What does that look like for you guys at Cottonwood, and what have you tried in the past that has worked? What are you guys doing right now?
Well, that's an interesting question. What we're doing now to be able to balance excellence and spiritual direction in what we do is we had to realize a long time ago that we needed to develop a culture within our technical and media ministry and our worship ministry, and being able to work together on these things with our senior pastor. And I describe it this way. I describe it as a spiritual professionalism. And what that spiritual professionalism does is it involves three things: your core, your character, and your craft. Your core, who you are in Christ. Your character, how do you practice that in your everyday life? And then three, how can you use your craft to be able to make sure that the craft that you have as a technical artist is something that takes you from a creative leader, technical artist, into a worship leader. And so for us, we've developed this culture where everything we do is focused on how is God wanting and how is God leading us to be able to use this element, to use this bit of technology, to use this song, for all of this to come together to communicate the message of Jesus Christ.
Oh, that's so good. And, it makes me think that, as we're preparing, and obviously what we're doing for volunteers is we're giving them ownership. We want them to be able to lean into what God is saying about the weekend. And, what does it look like, guys, for us to tap in to, the heart of the heartbeat that God has for our services? When you guys are preparing, whether it's months or weeks out, what does it look like for you guys, whether it's personally or even with your team? How do you guys actually pursue hearing the voice of God for your service and then being able to, through a practical application, help him achieve whatever his heartbeat is for the weekend?
I know for us at Life Mission, it's a lot of it comes around to a simple prayer. I always meet with our team before our first service, and and that's 9.5 times out of 10, I have the same people for both services, for our Sundays services. And I just pray a simple prayer. I'm like, Lord, help us to set the atmosphere for people to come into contact with your presence. And I prayed every week, and my team might be sick of hearing it, but I don't know how else to express what we're doing, because that is what we're doing. We're setting that atmosphere in the house. We're setting it online. And I personally, I love that prayer because it brings in the weight of what we're doing. This isn't just, we're not preparing a broadcast and audio and all that just for funsies, as fun as it is. And we're all doing this because we enjoy it. But there is a weight to this. It's just as weighty, I think, as the sermon. It's just as weighty as the people who are leading the worship. It's just as important as those things, because in a sense, we are the posts of the tabernacle, where we're meeting that morning. So we pray that, and then I always turn it to, Lord, this is our offering to you. You might not be lifting our hands and worshiping and praying and singing, but this is just as much worship as anything else that's happening in this room or maybe happening at homes that morning. This is our offering. We're giving it all to you. And I think that helps bring in kind of that side of excellence. It's mixing the spiritual importance of what we're doing that morning, and lending weight to bringing as excellent an offering as we're capable of that day.
It's amazing. Not minimizing excellence, but minimizing the performance mentality and being able to lean into, well, the most important reason we're here today is to experience and encounter the presence of God. So Ron or Don or Will, any of you guys have any thoughts to share on that, how you personally prepare for the weekend and tap into the voice of God for your service?
Well, what I do typically, sorry, Don, I just jumped in.
Go ahead, man.
For me, it's about a 30-minute drive for me to pull into the church parking lot. And I don't know, we've just developed a culture of prayer and humility amongst our team. And somebody shared this with me a long time ago, and I've just sort of done that. I pray out loud on the way to church. People, if anybody's up at 5:30 in the morning and sees my car, they probably think I'm a nut, but
any more than you think you're on the phone, bro.
Well, that's true. Yeah. But I always pray. Yeah, we always, the thing I always pray is, the first thing is, I know when I pull into that parking lot that everybody on that team wants me to have a great day. And listen, we've all been in ministry and tech ministry long enough to know that that's not always the case, right? I mean, let's be honest. There are challenging times, there are challenging people that, want to, their egos and all that other sort of stuff. I'm thankful that after so many years of doing this, that's behind me. I don't have to deal with that anymore, and I'm grateful for that. But my point is that I pull into that parking lot and I know that everybody there wants me to have a great day. So therefore, when I get out of that car and I'm all prayed up and ready to go, I want everybody else to have a great day. And one of the prayers I pray for myself is like, Lord, help me to be a light to somebody today. Somebody on that team might look a little down. We have a thing at Perimeter. Patrick, I think you were there when we were talking about it with David one time, was, we don't run anywhere. We walk, because, God's in control. Everything's going to be fine.
Ron, I really like that. We don't run anywhere. That's really great.
That is really
Except for that barbecue place, man. Come on.
Yeah.
I will run to get some barbecue, but around here you run and then you got to wait in line.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm going to run there now. I'll just piggyback off that. If you're around me for very long, you'll probably hear me say something about this idea of wow versus real. It's kind of the thing that my team hears all the time right now. I did ministry for a long time in that attractional mindset where it was like, let's find a way to make it not feel like your grandma's church, and let's find a way to make it feel like it's really accessible to anybody. And I think one of the benefits of modern day culture right now is that people are reaching out for something that they feel like is authentic and real. And so it's really difficult to wow people anymore anyway. You're not going to beat the greatest thing out there that they've seen that week, and nor necessarily would you want to, right? So the consistent reminder to my team to make sure that their teams, it can only be real if it is real, right? So I can't have you on stage and going after something and showing like it's just detectable anymore. People can tell when it's not real and authentic, right? So you've got to own this thing that you're doing. And I don't care how good of a singer you are, how good of a instrumentalist you are, if it's not coming from here, people will pick up on it. And so there's an awful lot of just constant communication about wow versus real. Like, we're not trying to wow them. We'll let God do that, right? Our job is to just show them the real authentic part of who we are and what God's doing in us, and more will come out of that. So for me, what's hard about that on a Sunday is I very often don't get a chance to go to a campus. I'm usually at 3 or 4 campuses in a weekend, just trying to make sure things are going well with the different teams and how are things going. And because the weird thing about it is excellence still matters. Real is great, but if it's real bad, that's also not good, right? So so we'll spend time making sure that the bar stays high, and then making sure my teams are working with their people to keep what's real inside them coming out of people.
Going back to the wow factor, did you guys encounter anything, maybe a new piece of equipment or a new piece of technology or a new approach to your leadership or in leading your teams from a practical standpoint that was like, wow, that was amazing, or wow, I'm never doing that again? Any stories or any thoughts you guys have from that?
So what failed miserably? Is that what you really want to know? I like that.
There you go. Yeah, that's exactly right.
What didn't work super well for us was I said we had some fires to put out. We had some LED wall panels go out right before service, and then so we had to rush around and fix that as best we could, and then try to hide it a little bit with ProPresenter because we couldn't fix it all the way. And then I had network issues at both of my campuses. Like the one, their lighting iPad wasn't working. They have a simple lighting setup, so it wasn't a big deal. There was like a wall controller they could use, but that died. And then in my other campus, they were trying to download their videos for the day, and their internet was running slow. So we had to, then that campus is a half hour away. So I had to send my production tech down there with hard copies to make sure that they were able to get announcements and a message and all that. So network stuff, it's what it is. What are you going to do other than just let's hold on and pray?
We did a thing for walk-in with our LED wall where we had He is Risen, on it, and it was a really sharp looking thing, and when you walked in, it kind of was a real awe and kind of like yes kind of thing. But the part that people loved is we went old school and we put flowers across the front of the stage. And what people loved is they loved the flowers that were there with the digital technology and how it kind of all kind of blended together. And we were really thankful for how the Lord used that to be able to inspire and even equip our people to go back and to be able to take photos before and after our services there at the front of the stage and then share it on social media. And so that was a neat piece that we saw that was at a value add and that the Lord added to us this past weekend.
That's awesome. Well, great to hear that. It's exciting to hear, all of the things that we're implementing. I think all of us are learning, new tools and tricks as we go. Ron and Don, do you guys have in the last 30 to 60 seconds a win and a loss for your environments?
I mean, Easter was a win. It was phenomenal. Loved it all the way around. I think if there was anything that was more of a caveat that somebody could listen to, for us, it was just the reality that supply chains are still much more of a thing than they ever have been in the past. And issues there. And so we, about 9 weeks ago decided to do a 5th campus that we're going to be launching by the end of this year. We thought we'll just do Easter there. And even because supply chains were as bad as they were, the rental gear that we had to do just to make that week happen was unbelievably expensive. So, and it wasn't much. We had to find a way to kind of piecemeal something together just to be able to afford just to pull off service in this school for our 5th campus. We have one international campus, and this will be our 5th local campus. And man, it was awful, to the point where we realized, I mean, the service was great, but getting there was really hard. We've already started ordering equipment for Christmas for that campus right now, and we're worried that things aren't going to come in. So more than ever, we talked about margin around the beginning of things, that margin in this is as big as anything else, right? You got to give a lot of time to expect something to come in. If you're going to need some new equipment, just if you think it's going to take a month, it's going to take 3. So be prepared to think that way. But yeah, Easter overall, man, it was one of my favorite ones we've done.
A fail that we had that I forgot to mention is that we had a little bitty strip on one of our panels on our LED wall go out as well. And the way that our LED wall is installed and what we have to do with the support structure, we can't extremely quickly, a lot of times pop that out and pop a new one in. And so we went old school and used a very sophisticated piece of equipment to be able to cover up that very little thin strip on our walls so that people couldn't notice what it was.
Gaff tape.
How did you know?
Yes.
We took a piece of gaff tape with a box knife and made sure that it was really, really good edges, and took that little bitty piece of strip and put it on there, and then stepped back, couldn't tell from out in the house, and then looked at it on camera, and we were like, yes, it works. It looks like it's part of it. And so that was one thing I was really proud of our team, is the creative problem solving in that moment and going with something old school to be able to fix the problem quick, and will allow everybody to be calm and everybody to be able to go through it and to be able to push on to what the Lord was going to do that weekend.
Nice. That's awesome.
You're talking about gaff tape. We weren't able to completely fix the wall right on Sunday morning. There was still like one half of one square panel that was just discolored. So we picked some backgrounds that would kind of hide it a little bit, because there's some colors it was working with and some colors it wasn't. And then on Monday morning, me and my production tech came in and we were trying to figure out what it is. And it turns out it wasn't a panel, it's a board and a chip. And so what we did is we just moved it all the way down to one part of the wall. It's still there. We're just going to hide it with our bassist. That's the plan. Until we can get new parts.
I'm not sure how I feel about that. Brian, Brian is a bassist.
That's awesome.
That's good.
That's so great. Well,
It's going to be like, dude, you got to hold really still this Sunday. Like, no, you just stay right there. Don't move. Also, you have to be up there for the entire sermon.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. At Perimeter, everything went really smoothly. We were blessed. A lot of rehearsal time leading up to it, but we basically, aside from doing the 2 additional services for Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday, Easter was just an expanded version of what we typically do. We have a full choir about once a month. So instead of maybe 40 or 50 people in the choir, we probably had 70. We have a string section about once a month. Instead of having, but we never had the strings in the choir at the same time. But this time we did, So, and a full band, and everything went really well. And we brought in a few extra, rental lights just for some impact. But I think if people came back this coming Sunday, it's not going to be drastically different, aside from the fact that we're not having the choir in the string section. But it's still a very smooth, nice, well executed production.
I love that, Ron. Yes, exactly. Hey, do you happen to have that post that you shared queued up where you could read that for us to kind of wrap up our time today?
Yeah, I do. This is something I've shared on social media just about probably for the last 10 years or so when it comes to these big impactful moments, mostly on Easter. But I posted this, and it says, "For all my friends, coworkers, clients, production staff, volunteers, and musicians, serving in churches this Easter season, may I suggest today, this is typically on a Thursday, may I suggest today, find a quiet moment to pray for your teams and the countless others who will be taking long hours away from their families to serve God over the next 3 days. Serve with a grateful and loving heart. Be patient and kind to one another. Lead the way with a positive and joyful spirit. We have so much to be thankful for, a Savior who died for us and defeated the grave. He is risen, and we have been given the privilege to host the celebration.
That's so good. So good. Such a good reminder. It's a way to keep us centered. Again, bring that plumb line back and say, you know what, as much as we all geek out about the gear and the equipment and the presentation and the production, and we can all get, and it's great to be excited about those things. It's bringing it back to the purpose and the reason for the season, Christ's death, Christ's resurrection, the celebration that we have the privilege to host. I love the way you said that, Ron. Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening today. We hope that you were inspired. In collaboration with churchproduction.com, our heart is to network church creatives so that we can serve and equip the church. Bye for now.